7 years. 7 long years of pursuing Julian like a moth drawn to flame, and Adrian finally had what he dreamed of, the title of boyfriend. The word tasted both sweet and bitter on his tongue as he stood in Julian's penthouse apartment, watching the city lights twinkle below through floor-to-ceiling windows. "You're quiet tonight," Julian said, approaching from behind with 2 glasses of wine. His voice carried that familiar warmth that had kept Adrian hooked for nearly a decade. Adrian accepted the glass, their fingers brushing momentarily. Even after months of being together, that simple touch still sent electricity through his veins. "Just thinking about how far we've come." Julian's smile was soft, genuine. 7 years of you being ridiculously persistent. "I still can't believe you never gave up." "I couldn't." Adrian turned to face him fully. "You were worth every rejection, every maybe later, every time you chose someone else." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with history. Adrian had been there through Julian's parade of relationships, watching from the sidelines as temporary partners came and went, always hoping, always waiting for his turn. And finally, miraculously, Julian had seen him. Really seen him. "I was an idiot for taking so long," Julian said, setting down his wine to cup Adrian's face. "You were right there the whole time." Their kiss was tender, familiar now after months of being together. Adrian melted into it, thinking of all the times he'd imagined this exact moment during those 7 years of longing. When they broke apart, Julian rested his forehead against Adrian's. "I love you," Julian whispered. "I love you too," Adrian replied, and meant it with every fiber of his being. If only Adrian had known that this moment of perfect happiness would be their last. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Adrian was in Julian's kitchen, making coffee and humming contentedly, when Julian's phone buzzed on the counter. The caller ID made Adrian's blood freeze. Sebastian. He watched Julian's face transform as he answered, saw the way his eyes lit up with something Adrian had never inspired, pure, uncomplicated joy. "Sebastian, you're back? When did you—" Julian's voice cracked with emotion. "I can't believe it." "Yes, of course. Tonight? I'll be there." Adrian's hand tightened around his coffee mug. He'd heard that name whispered in Julian's sleep, had seen old photos tucked away in drawers. Sebastian, the one who got away, Julian's first love who'd left for Europe 3 years ago to pursue his art career. "That was Sebastian," Julian said after hanging up, his face flushed. "He's back in town. He wants to meet up tonight." "Tonight?" Adrian tried to keep his voice steady. "We had plans." "I know, but—" Julian ran a hand through his hair. "Adrian, I haven't seen him in 3 years. Just this once, please." Adrian nodded, forcing a smile. "Of course, catch up with your friend." But as Julian kissed him goodbye, Adrian couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Chapter 2. The Return of the White Moonlight. The restaurant was upscale, all dim lighting and intimate corners. Adrian arrived early, choosing a table with a clear view of the entrance. He'd told Julian he was working late, but the truth was he needed to see Sebastian for himself, needed to understand what he was up against. When Sebastian walked in, Adrian's heart sank. He was everything Adrian wasn't. Tall where Adrian was average height, effortlessly elegant where Adrian tried too hard, possessed of that natural magnetism that drew every eye in the room. His dark hair was longer than in the photos, artistic and slightly disheveled, and his clothes spoke of European sophistication. Julian rose from their table like a man in a trance, and the embrace they shared lasted too long, was too intimate for friends. Adrian watched Sebastian whisper something in Julian's ear that made him laugh, a sound of pure delight that Adrian realized he'd never truly inspired. Throughout dinner, Adrian observed their body language, the way Julian leaned forward with rapt attention, how Sebastian's hand would occasionally rest on Julian's arm during conversation. They spoke in the shorthand of shared history, references to places and people Adrian didn't know, memories he'd never been part of. When they finally left the restaurant, Adrian followed at a distance, his heart hammering. They walked slowly, reluctant to part, and at the corner where their paths would diverge, Sebastian pulled Julian close again. This time, their lips met in a kiss that was anything but friendly. Adrian felt something break inside his chest. He stumbled backward, nearly knocking over a street sign, and ran. Back in his apartment, Adrian sat in darkness, Julian's words echoing in his mind. I love you. Had it been a lie? Or had Sebastian's return simply erased everything they'd built together? His phone buzzed. A text from Julian. Working late ran long. See you tomorrow? Adrian stared at the message, then deleted it without responding. Chapter 3. The humiliation begins. The next few weeks passed in a blur of small humiliations. Julian would cancel their dates last minute, always with plausible excuses. He'd be distracted during their conversations, his phone constantly buzzing with messages that made him smile in ways that cut Adrian to the bone. The worst part was the pretense. Julian still said, I love you, still kissed him goodnight, still went through the motions of being his boyfriend. But Adrian felt like he was holding on to smoke, watching Julian slip away piece by piece. You're different, Adrian said one evening as they walked through the park where they'd had their first official date. Distant. Julian's step faltered.
I'm sorry.
Work's been crazy. And with Sebastian back. Sebastian, Adrian repeated. You've mentioned him a lot lately. He's an old friend. You know that.
Doi.
Adrian stopped walking, forcing Julian to turn and face him. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like he's something more. Julian's face went pale. Adrian, you're being paranoid. Am I? Adrian's voice rose. You disappeared for 3 hours yesterday. Your phone was off. When you finally showed up, you smelled like someone else's cologne. I was at the gallery with Sebastian. Adrian's laugh was bitter. It's always with Sebastian now, isn't it? Julian reached for him, but Adrian stepped back. Adrian, please. You're reading too much into this. Am I? Then look me in the eye and tell me you didn't kiss him. The silence stretched between them, heavy with truth. Julian's inability to deny it was answer enough. I see, Adrian said quietly. Well, at least now I know where I stand. He turned and walked away, leaving Julian standing alone under the streetlights. Chapter 4. The Escape to the Past. Adrian drove aimlessly through the city. His vision blurred by tears he refused to shed. He'd known this day would come, had felt it building like a storm on the horizon, but the reality of it still knocked the breath from his lungs. 7 years. 7 years of loving Julian with everything he had, and it had taken Sebastian exactly 3 weeks to undo it all. His phone rang. Julian's name flashed on the screen, and Adrian let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again, and again. Finally, he turned it off. Without consciously deciding to, Adrian found himself parked outside a familiar apartment building. He sat there for a long time, staring up at the windows, before finally getting out of the car. The name on the buzzer was weathered but readable. R. Chin. Adrian pressed it, his heart hammering. Yeah. The voice was deeper than he remembered, roughened by years and distance. Ryan? It's Adrian. A long pause. Adrian? Jesus. How long has it been? 4 years, Adrian said. I know it's late, but I was wondering if we could talk? Another pause. Come on up. The apartment was smaller than Adrian remembered, but it was unmistakably Ryan's. Books stacked everywhere. A guitar leaning against the wall, the scent of coffee and something indefinably comforting that he associated with safety. Ryan looked older, more settled somehow. His hair was shorter, his shoulders broader, and there were laugh lines around his eyes that hadn't been there in college. But when he smiled, Adrian felt something inside him settle for the first time in weeks. You look good, Ryan said, closing the door behind him. Successful. I saw your promotion in the business journal. Thanks. Adrian looked around the familiar space. You moved back 6 months ago, got tired of the corporate rat race in New York, decided to come home and teach music. Ryan gestured to the couch. Sit. You want coffee? You look like you need it. Adrian sank onto the familiar cushions, and suddenly the weight of the past few weeks crashed down on him. I messed up, Ryan. I messed up everything. Ryan was quiet for a moment, then sat beside him. Tell me. And Adrian did. He told him about Julian, about the 7 years of chasing, about Sebastian's return and the slow, painful dissolution of everything he'd thought he wanted. Ryan listened without judgment, occasionally asking gentle questions but mostly just being present in the way Adrian remembered. I feel like such a fool, Adrian said finally. 7 years of my life, and it meant nothing. It meant something to you, Ryan said quietly. That's not nothing. But it wasn't real. He never really chose me, Ryan. I was just convenient, available. And the moment something better came along. Hey! Ryan's hand found his shoulder. Don't do that to yourself. You're not a consolation prize. Adrian looked at him, really looked, and saw the same kindness that had drawn him in college. Ryan had been his first love, the one who'd shown him what it meant to be truly seen and accepted. They'd broken up when Ryan got the job in New York, both too young and scared to try long distance. I missed you, Adrian said quietly. I missed you too. Ryan's thumb traced across his shoulder. More than I probably should have. The space between them seemed to shrink, and Adrian found himself leaning closer. Ryan. I know, Ryan said softly. I know you're hurting. I know you're not thinking clearly. But I'm here. Okay? I'm not going anywhere. Adrian closed his eyes, feeling safe for the first time in months. Can I stay? Just for tonight. As long as you need. They didn't do anything more than hold each other, but Adrian slept better than he had in weeks, wrapped in Ryan's arms and the familiar scent of home. Chapter 5: The Scene at the Club. Adrian woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Ryan moving quietly around the kitchen. For a moment, he allowed himself to pretend this was normal, that he belonged here, that the warmth he felt was real and lasting. Morning, Ryan said, offering him a mug. Sleep okay? Better than I have in weeks. Adrian accepted the coffee gratefully. Thank you. For last night, for listening. That's what friends do. Friends. The word stung more than it should have. Adrian forced a smile. Right? Friends. His phone had 17 missed calls from Julian and twice as many texts. Adrian scrolled through them, watching Julian's messages progress from confusion to concern to anger, and finally to something that looked like panic. He's worried, Ryan observed, reading over Adrian's shoulder. He's worried about losing his backup plan, Adrian said bitterly. The moment Sebastian decides he wants something else, Julian will come running back. And what will you do then? Adrian looked at Ryan, taking in the gentle concern in his expression. I don't know. I spent so long wanting him that I forgot who I was without that want. You're Adrian, Ryan said simply. You're brilliant and passionate, and you deserve someone who chooses you first, not as a fallback. The words hit Adrian like a physical blow, not because they were harsh but because they were true. He'd been so grateful for Julian's attention that he'd accepted being second choice, third choice, whatever choice Julian was willing to give him. I should go, Adrian said, standing abruptly. Face the music. Adrian. It's okay. I can't hide forever. He paused at the door. But thank you for reminding me who I used to be. Ryan caught his hand as he reached for the doorknob. You don't have to go back to him. You know that, right? I know. Adrian squeezed his hand. But I need to end this properly. I owe myself that much. The confrontation with Julian happened at Zenith, the upscale club where their social circle regularly gathered. Adrian had intended to have a calm, private conversation, but Julian was already there with Sebastian and their friends when Adrian arrived. There you are, Julian said, rising from the VIP booth. I've been calling you for 2 days. I know. Adrian accepted the drink someone pressed into his hand. I needed space to think. Space to think about what? Julian's voice had an edge to it. We had a fight, Adrian. Couples fight. You don't just disappear. Couples. Adrian tasted the word. Is that what we are? Because I'm having trouble telling the difference between me and Sebastian in your life. The table went quiet. Sebastian, who'd been examining his phone, looked up with interest. I'm sorry, do I know you? The question hit Adrian like a slap. He'd been in Julian's life for 7 years, had been his boyfriend for months, and Sebastian didn't even know who he was. I'm Adrian, he said carefully. Julian's friend, Julian interrupted quickly. Adrian's a friend. Friend. Not boyfriend. Not partner. Friend. Adrian felt something cold settle in his chest. Right? Friend. Well, Sebastian said with a charming smile. Any friend of Julian's is a friend of mine. The casual dismissal, the way Julian refused to claim him, it was too much. Adrian stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Where are you going? Julian asked. Away from this, Adrian said. Away from you. But as he turned to leave, he spotted a familiar face across the club. Nate, Julian's new assistant, was sitting at the bar looking lost and out of place. He was young, maybe 22, with earnest eyes and the kind of eager-to-please demeanor that reminded Adrian painfully of himself at that age. Something ugly twisted in Adrian's chest. If Julian wanted to play games, wanted to reduce him to just another disposable person in his orbit, then Adrian could play too. He changed direction, heading for the bar. Nate, right? Julian's assistant. The young man looked up, surprised. Oh, you're Adrian. Mr. Blackwood talks about you sometimes. Does he? Adrian signaled the bartender. What does he say? Just that you're friends. That you've known each other for years. Nate's smile was genuine, trusting. He says you're really loyal. Loyal. Like a dog. Adrian's grip tightened on his drink. That's one word for it. I'm sorry, I'm probably not supposed to be here, Nate said, glancing around nervously. But Mr. Blackwood said I should network, meet people in the industry. Oh, you're definitely supposed to be here, Adrian said, his voice taking on a silky quality that would have been a warning to anyone who knew him better. In fact, let me introduce you to some people. What followed was a masterclass in social cruelty. Adrian dragged Nate from group to group, introducing him as Julian's latest project and the new flavor of the month. He made cutting remarks about Nate's clothes, his background, his obvious inexperience, all while maintaining a veneer of friendly mentorship. You know, Adrian said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear, Julian has a type, young, grateful, easy to impress. I'm sure you'll fit right in. Nate's face went red. I don't understand. Don't you? Here's some free advice. Enjoy it while it lasts. Julian gets bored easily. Adrian took a sip of his drink. Trust me, I should know. Adrian. Julian's voice was sharp with warning. He'd appeared beside them, Sebastian trailing behind. What are you doing? Just sharing some wisdom with your protege, Adrian said pleasantly. Making sure he knows what he's getting into. You're drunk. I'm clear-headed for the first time in months. Adrian turned to Sebastian. Has Julian told you about his pattern? The way he collects people. Always someone young and devoted waiting in the wings. Sebastian's eyebrows rose. I think you might be misreading the situation. Am I? Adrian's laugh was sharp. Julian. Tell him about the 7 years I spent chasing you. Tell him about how I waited while you dated other people. How I was always there when you needed someone to make you feel wanted. Adrian, stop. Julian's voice was low, dangerous. You're making a scene. Good. Maybe it's time people knew the truth about Julian Blackwood's charitable nature. Adrian's voice carried across the club. How he keeps people like me around for when he needs an ego boost. The confrontation escalated quickly. Voices raised, accusations flew, and before long, security was escorting Adrian out of the club. He found himself on the sidewalk, breathing hard, his heart pounding with adrenaline and shame. He'd wanted to hurt Julian, and he had. But he'd also hurt Nate, who'd done nothing wrong except be young and naive enough to believe in Julian's mentorship. Adrian felt sick with himself. His phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. Saw the news about the club. Are you okay? News traveled fast in their social circle. Adrian typed back. No, I'm not okay. Come home, Ryan replied. I'll make coffee. Home. The word made Adrian's eyes burn. He hailed a cab, giving Ryan's address, and tried not to think about the bridges he'd just burned. Chapter 6. The Truth About Shadows. Ryan was waiting with coffee and a box of tissues when Adrian arrived, looking like he'd been through a blender. He didn't ask questions, just pulled Adrian into a hug and held him while he shook apart. "I'm a terrible person," Adrian said into Ryan's shoulder. "You're a person in pain," Ryan corrected. "There's a difference. I hurt that kid, Nate. He didn't deserve that. Then you'll apologize. You'll make it right." Ryan pulled back to look at him. "But first, you need to take care of yourself." They sat on the couch, Adrian curled against Ryan's side like they were 22 again. Felt like coming home after years of being lost. "I saw the photos," Ryan said quietly. "From the club. You and Julian. I'm sorry you had to see that. Don't apologize to me." "But Adrian, what did you mean about 7 years? About being kept around for ego boosts?" Adrian was quiet for a long time. "I was never his first choice, Ryan. I was never even his second choice. I was just there, convenient. And I was so grateful for any attention he gave me that I convinced myself it was love. And now I know the difference." Adrian lifted his head to look at Ryan. "You never made me feel like I was competing for scraps of your attention. When we were together, I felt like I was enough. You were enough. You are enough. Then why did I spend 7 years chasing someone who couldn't see that?" Ryan's hand found his hair, fingers gentle. "Because sometimes we think we have to earn love, like it's something we can win if we just try hard enough." "Is that what I was doing?" "I think so. But love isn't a prize, Adrian. It's a choice. Every day, it's a choice to see someone and choose them." Adrian closed his eyes, letting the words wash over him. "Julian never chose me. Not really. He just settled for me when no one better was available." "And Sebastian?" "Sebastian is his white moonlight. The one who got away. The one he's been comparing everyone else to for 3 years." Adrian's voice was bitter. "I was just keeping his bed warm until Sebastian came back." Ryan was quiet for a moment. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. I want to fight for him, but I'm tired of fighting for someone who doesn't want to be one." Adrian looked at Ryan. "What would you do?" "I'd remember that you can't make someone love you, and I'd ask myself if I wanted to spend my life begging for something that should be freely given." The words hit home. Adrian had spent so long begging for Julian's love that he'd forgotten what it felt like to be loved without conditions, without competition. "I missed you," he said quietly. "All these years, I missed you. I missed you too." Ryan's voice was soft. "But I'm here now. Are you? Or are you just being kind to an old friend who's having a breakdown?" Ryan was quiet for a long moment. "Can I be honest with you? Please. I never stopped loving you. When I left for New York, I thought I was doing the right thing. We were young, we had our whole lives ahead of us. But I regretted it. I regretted leaving you." Adrian's breath caught. "Ryan, I know you're not ready to hear this. I know you're still processing everything with Julian. But I needed you to know that you're not unlovable. You're not second choice. You're the one I compare everyone else to." Tears slipped down Adrian's cheeks. "I don't deserve you. You don't get to decide that. I do. And I think you're worth fighting for." They held each other in the lamplight, and for the first time in months, Adrian felt like he could breathe. Chapter 7. The Revelation. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Adrian was making breakfast in Ryan's kitchen when the doorbell rang. Ryan answered it, and Adrian heard a voice that made him freeze. "I'm looking for Adrian. I know he's here. Sebastian." Ryan appeared in the kitchen doorway, eyebrows raised. "Someone to see you." Adrian wiped his hands on a towel, steeling himself. Sebastian was standing in Ryan's small living room, looking out of place among the books and musical instruments. "What do you want?" Adrian asked. "To talk. About Julian. About what happened last night." Sebastian's voice was calm, reasonable. "Can we sit?" Against his better judgment, Adrian nodded. Ryan disappeared into the kitchen, giving them privacy but staying close enough to intervene if needed. I owe you an apology, Sebastian said once they were seated. For last night, I didn't know who you were. Julian's friend, Adrian said bitterly. That's what he told you, right? He told me a lot of things. Most of them lies. Sebastian leaned forward. Adrian, I need you to know something. Julian doesn't love me. The words hit Adrian like a physical blow. What? He doesn't love me, Sebastian repeated. He loves the idea of me, the memory of who we were together. But that's not love, it's nostalgia. I don't understand. Sebastian ran a hand through his hair. When I left for Europe, Julian was devastated. But he didn't fight for me. He didn't ask me to stay. He just let me go. And for 3 years, he built up this fantasy of what we could have been. But you're together now. Are we? Sebastian's smile was sad. Adrian, do you know what Julian talks about when he's with me? You. He talks about you. About how loyal you are. How you never gave up on him. About how guilty he feels for not appreciating you. Adrian felt like the ground was shifting beneath him. That's not. He chose you. He chose familiarity. He chose the past because it felt safer than the future. Sebastian looked at him directly. But he's not happy. He's terrified. Of what? Of losing you. Of realizing that he's been taking you for granted. Of admitting that he's been using you as a security blanket while he chased ghosts. Adrian shook his head. You're wrong. If he was worried about losing me, he wouldn't have hidden our relationship from you. He hid it because he was ashamed. Not of you, but of how badly he's treated you. Sebastian stood, pacing to the window. Adrian, I came back to tell Julian that I'm not staying. I'm going back to Europe. I wanted to see if what we had was real or just memory. And now I know. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not in love with who Julian is now. And he's not in love with me. We're both in love with who we used to be. Sebastian turned back to him. But you love who he is. Present tense. And that terrifies him. Why are you telling me this? Because Julian won't. He's too proud, too scared. He'll let you walk away rather than admit he's been wrong. Sebastian's voice was gentle. But I've seen how he looks at you when you're not watching. I've heard him say your name in his sleep. You're not second choice, Adrian. You're the choice he's too afraid to make. Adrian felt tears prick his eyes. It's too late. After last night, after what I did. Is it? Or are you just as scared as he is? The question hung in the air between them. Adrian thought about the past 7 years. About all the times he'd been brave enough to chase Julian but too scared to demand more. About how he'd accepted crumbs instead of asking for the whole meal. I don't know how to fight for someone who won't fight for me, Adrian said quietly. Then maybe it's time to fight for yourself, Sebastian said. To decide what you're worth and refuse to accept anything less. After Sebastian left, Adrian sat in Ryan's living room, staring at the wall. Ryan joined him, setting a cup of coffee on the table. You okay? Ryan asked. I don't know what to think anymore. What do you want to think? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. I want to believe that Julian loves me, but I'm tired of being the only one fighting for us. Then maybe it's time to stop fighting and start living. With you. Ryan took his hand. If you want to, but not as a consolation prize. Not as a replacement for Julian. As a choice. A real choice. Adrian looked at their joined hands. I don't know if I'm ready. Then we'll wait. We'll take it slow. We'll figure it out together. Promise. Promise. Chapter 8. The Confrontation. The reunion party was everything Adrian had expected. Overwrought, pretentious, and full of people he'd spent the last decade trying to forget. But Mia had insisted, and after everything that had happened, Adrian found himself needing the distraction. You look good, Mia said, appearing at his elbow with a martini. Better than you have in months. Thanks. Adrian accepted the drink gratefully. How long do we have to stay? Long enough to be seen, not long enough to be gossip. She studied his face. Are you okay? Really okay? Getting there. Good. Because Julian's here. With Sebastian. Adrian's grip tightened on his glass. I know. I saw them come in. And nothing. I'm not here for Julian. I'm here for you. Mia smiled. Speaking of which, did I mention that Ryan's here? I may have told him you'd be coming. Mia. What? You two were good together. And after everything with Julian, maybe it's time you remembered what a healthy relationship looks like. Before Adrian could respond, she was gone, disappeared into the crowd with the skill of someone who'd been avoiding awkward conversations for years. The party was in full swing, music too loud, conversations too bright. Adrian found himself a corner and tried to blend into the wallpaper, but his eyes kept finding Julian across the room. He looked good, he always looked good. But there was something brittle about his smile, something forced about his laughter. Sebastian was beside him, playing the part of the devoted boyfriend, but Adrian could see the tension between them. The way Sebastian would touch Julian's arm and Julian would stiffen slightly. The way Julian's eyes would dart around the room, searching for something or someone. He's looking for you. Adrian turned to find Ryan beside him, looking comfortable in a simple button-down and jeans. He'd always been able to dress down expensive clothes, make them look effortless. He's with Sebastian, Adrian said. Is he? Because from where I'm standing, he looks miserable. Adrian forced himself to look away from Julian. How are you? I mean, really, this can't be easy for you either. Watching the man I love pine for someone else? It's not my favorite thing. Ryan's smile was rueful. But I'm not going anywhere. I told you that. Ryan, dance with me. What? Dance with me. Give everyone something to talk about. That isn't Julian Blackwood's love life. Adrian let Ryan lead him to the dance floor, acutely aware of the eyes following them. They moved well together, always had, and Adrian found himself relaxing for the first time all evening. You're beautiful, Ryan said quietly, his hand warm on Adrian's back. You're biased. I'm honest. There's a difference. They danced through 2 songs, talking quietly, laughing at shared memories. For a moment, Adrian felt like himself again. Not Julian's shadow, not anyone's consolation prize, just Adrian. Then he felt eyes on him and looked up to see Julian watching them, his face a mask of controlled fury. I think we have an audience, Adrian murmured. Let him watch, Ryan said. Let him see what he's missing. But even as Ryan said it, Adrian could see Julian moving through the crowd toward them, Sebastian trailing behind looking concerned. Adrian. Julian's voice was tight. Can I talk to you? We're dancing, Ryan said pleasantly. Maybe later. I wasn't talking to you. Julian's eyes were hard. Adrian, please. Adrian looked between them, feeling the weight of everyone's attention. It's okay, he told Ryan. I'll be right back. Julian led him to a quieter corner, away from the crowd. What are you doing? Enjoying the party. Isn't that what reunions are for? With him? Really? You're going to throw away everything we had for your college boyfriend? Adrian stared at him. What we had? Julian, what exactly did we have? Don't do this. Don't pretend like it didn't matter. It mattered to me. It mattered so much that I spent 7 years of my life chasing you. But did it matter to you? Really? Julian's jaw clenched. Of course it mattered. Then why didn't you tell Sebastian about us? Why did you introduce me as your friend? Because it's complicated. It's not complicated. Either I'm your boyfriend or I'm not. Either you love me or you don't. Either you choose me or you don't. Adrian's voice was rising. But you can't have it both ways. You can't keep me around as backup while you chase your white moonlight. That's not what this is. Isn't it? Tell me honestly, Julian. If Sebastian hadn't come back, would you have stayed with me? Would you have been happy? Julian's silence was answer enough. I thought so, Adrian said quietly. Well, here's some news for you. I'm done being your safety net. I'm done being the one you settle for when you can't have what you really want. Adrian, I'm with Ryan now. And before you say anything, it's not a rebound. It's not revenge. It's a choice. He's a choice I'm making for me, not against you. Julian's face went pale. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Ryan loves me. Not the idea of me, not the memory of me, but me. Present tense. And I'm tired of settling for less than that. You love me, Julian said desperately. You've loved me for 7 years. I did. I loved you so much that I forgot to love myself. But I'm remembering now. Adrian turned to walk away, but Julian caught his arm. Please, don't do this. Don't choose him over me. I'm not choosing him over you, Adrian said, gently removing Julian's hand. I'm choosing myself. Finally. He walked back to Ryan, who was waiting by the bar with a concerned expression. Everything okay? Yeah, Adrian said, and meant it. Everything's okay. Chapter 9. The Threat. The confrontation at the reunion might have been the end of it, but Julian wasn't the type to accept defeat gracefully. Adrian learned that the hard way when Ryan called him at work 2 days later, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. Your boyfriend came to see me, Ryan said without preamble.
Ex-boyfriend, Adrian corrected.
And what do you mean, came to see you? He showed up at the school. Made a scene in front of my students. Adrian felt his stomach drop. What kind of scene? The kind where he threatened to ruin my career if I didn't stay away from you. He what? You heard me. Apparently, Julian Blackwood has connections at the school board. He made it very clear that my position could become tenuous if I continued to interfere with his relationship. Adrian was already grabbing his keys. Where are you now? At home. Adrian, you don't need to. I'm coming over. Don't go anywhere. Adrian drove across town in a haze of fury, his hands shaking on the steering wheel. He'd known Julian was possessive, but this was beyond anything he'd expected. To threaten Ryan's career, his livelihood, over a relationship that Julian had already destroyed through his own actions. It was unconscionable. He found Ryan in his kitchen grading papers with forced calm. There was a set to his shoulders that spoke of barely contained rage. Tell me exactly what he said, Adrian said without preamble. Ryan looked up, his eyes hard. He said that you were confused, that you were acting out because you were hurt, and that I was taking advantage of your emotional state. That's ridiculous. It gets better. He said that he understood I had history with you, but that your relationship was temporary insanity and that if I really cared about you, I'd step aside and let you come to your senses. Adrian felt his hands clench into fists. What did you tell him? I told him that you were a grown man capable of making your own decisions. That's when he got creative. Ryan's voice was ice cold. Did you know that the school board is very concerned about the moral character of their teachers? Apparently, teachers who prey on emotionally vulnerable people might not be the best role models for children. He said that, in so many words. He also mentioned that he sits on the board of several prominent charities that support arts education. Charities that provide significant funding to schools like mine. Adrian felt sick. Ryan, I'm so sorry. I never thought he'd. I know you didn't. But Adrian, this is who he is. This is the man you spent 7 years loving. He's willing to destroy an innocent person's life to get what he wants. He's scared, Adrian said, but the words felt hollow even to him. He's abusive, Ryan corrected. What he's doing is emotional abuse. He's trying to isolate you, to make you feel guilty for leaving him, to convince you that you're responsible for the harm he's causing. The words hit Adrian like a physical blow. Abusive. He'd never thought of Julian in those terms, but looking back at their relationship with clearer eyes, he could see the patterns. The way Julian had always made him feel grateful for scraps of attention. The way he'd dismissed Adrian's concerns as paranoia or insecurity. The way he'd kept Adrian as a secret while parading other relationships publicly. What are you going to do? Adrian asked quietly. About my job? Nothing. I'm not going to let him terrorize me. Ryan's voice was steady. But I need you to understand something. I'm not going to hide our relationship. I'm not going to pretend we're just friends to protect myself from his threats. I wouldn't ask you to. Wouldn't you? Because that's what you did with him. You let him minimize what you were to each other. You let him make you feel like you were asking for too much. Adrian flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? Adrian, you're one of the most brilliant, passionate, loyal people I know. You deserve someone who's proud to be with you. Someone who doesn't hide you away like a dirty secret. Julian never. Julian introduced you as his friend to the love of his life. He refused to acknowledge your relationship in public. He made you feel grateful for the bare minimum of respect. Ryan's voice was gentle but firm. That's not love, Adrian. That's control. The words settled over Adrian like a weight. He thought about the 7 years he'd spent chasing Julian, about all the times he'd made excuses for Julian's behavior, about how he'd convinced himself that being chosen eventually was better than not being chosen at all. I'm an idiot, he said quietly. You're not an idiot. You're someone who loves deeply and trusts completely. Those are beautiful qualities, but they made you vulnerable to someone who was willing to take advantage of them. Adrian looked at Ryan, really looked at him, at the man who'd held him while he cried, who'd listened without judgment, who'd been willing to risk his career rather than let Julian intimidate him. I love you, Adrian said suddenly. Not because you're safe or familiar or because you're here. I love you because you see me, because you make me feel like I'm worth something. Ryan's smile was radiant. You are worth something. You're worth everything. They kissed then, soft and sweet and full of promise. And for the first time in years, Adrian felt like he was exactly where he belonged. Chapter 10, The Breaking Point. The attack came at Carter's birthday party, a lavish affair at one of the city's most exclusive clubs. Adrian hadn't wanted to go, but Mia had convinced him that hiding away would only give Julian more power over his life. You can't let him dictate where you go and who you see, she'd argued. That's letting him win. So Adrian had gone, Ryan at his side, determined to prove that Julian's threats and manipulations hadn't broken him. For the first few hours, it seemed to work. They danced, they talked to friends, they acted like a couple who belonged together. Julian was there, of course, with Sebastian shadowing him like a reluctant bodyguard. But he kept his distance, content to watch from across the room with eyes that burned with barely contained fury. It was Carter who approached them first, Julian's oldest friend and biggest enabler. Adrian had never liked him. Carter was the kind of person who saw cruelty as entertainment and loyalty as weakness. Adrian, Carter said, his voice slick with false friendliness. Enjoying the party? Very much, Adrian replied carefully. Good, good. And you must be Ryan. I've heard so much about you. Ryan's grip on Adrian's hand tightened slightly. All good things, I hope. Oh, definitely. Julian's been telling us all about his replacement. Carter's smile was sharp. It's fascinating how quickly people move on these days. Carter, Adrian said, his voice warning. What? I'm just making conversation. It's not every day that someone trades up so dramatically. I think you've had enough to drink, Ryan said pleasantly, but there was steel in his voice. Have I? Or have I just had enough of watching people make terrible decisions? Carter's mask slipped, revealing the malice beneath. You know, Ryan, you should ask Adrian about his track record. He's got quite a history of latching onto people who are too good for him. That's enough, Adrian said, standing. Is it? Because I think you owe Julian an apology. 7 years of his life you wasted. And for what? So you could run back to your college boyfriend the moment things got complicated. Complicated. Adrian's voice rose. Julian cheated on me. He hid our relationship from Sebastian. He made me feel like I was asking for too much by wanting to be acknowledged as his boyfriend. Oh, please. You were never his boyfriend. You were his charity case. The words hit Adrian like a physical blow. But before he could respond, Ryan was there, stepping between them. I think you need to walk away, Ryan said quietly. Or what? You'll fight me? That's rich. Coming from someone who's dating Julian's leftovers. That was when Ryan snapped. He moved faster than Adrian had ever seen him move, his fist connecting with Carter's jaw with a satisfying crack. Carter stumbled backward, blood streaming from his nose. You bastard! Carter snarled, lunging forward. The fight was brief but vicious. Carter was bigger, but Ryan was faster, and he had the advantage of righteous fury. By the time security broke it up, Carter was on the ground, holding his ribs, and Ryan was being escorted toward the exit. "Wait," Adrian called, following them. "He was defending me." "Sorry, sir," the security guard said. "Zero tolerance policy." Adrian looked back toward the club, where Julian was helping Carter to his feet, his face a mask of concern. Their eyes met across the room, and Adrian saw something flicker in Julian's expression. Guilt, maybe, or shame. But Julian didn't come after him, didn't follow them out, didn't choose Adrian over his friend, even when that friend had been cruel and unprovoked. Outside, Ryan was shaking out his knuckles, his face grim. "Are you okay?" Adrian asked. "I'm fine. Are you?" Adrian looked back at the club, at the warm lights spilling from the windows, at the life he'd been trying so hard to be part of. "Yeah, I'm fine." But as they walked away, Adrian's phone buzzed with a text from Julian. "We need to talk." Adrian deleted it without reading it twice. Chapter 11, The Choice. The confrontation happened 3 days later, in the lobby of Adrian's apartment building. Adrian was coming home from work when he saw Julian waiting by the elevator, looking haggard and desperate. "We need to talk," Julian said, standing as Adrian approached. "No, we don't." Adrian pressed the elevator button. "We've said everything there is to say. Have we? Because I don't remember you giving me a chance to explain." "Explain what?" "How you let Carter attack me. How you stood there and watched while your friend called me your charity case." Julian flinched. "I didn't know he was going to." "Didn't you? Carter's been your attack dog for years. He says the cruel things you're too polite to say yourself. That's not fair." "Fair?" Adrian laughed bitterly. "You want to talk about fair? Let's talk about 7 years of my life. Let's talk about how you made me feel grateful for scraps of your attention. Let's talk about how you hid me from Sebastian like you were ashamed of me." "I wasn't ashamed." "Then what were you?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you were embarrassed by the pathetic guy who'd been chasing you for 7 years." The elevator arrived, and Adrian stepped inside. Julian followed, pressing the button for Adrian's floor. "I was scared," Julian said quietly. "I was scared of losing you, and I was scared of admitting how much you meant to me." "So you decided to lose me anyway?" "I made mistakes. I know that. But Adrian, what we had was real. You can't just throw it away for him." "For him?" "Ryan has a name, Julian. And I'm not throwing anything away. I'm choosing something better." They reached Adrian's floor, and Julian followed him down the hallway. "Better? You barely know him anymore. You're in love with a memory. That's rich, coming from you." Adrian unlocked his door. "Sebastian is literally your white moonlight, and you're lecturing me about loving memories? Sebastian and I are over. I told him I couldn't be with him." Adrian paused, his hand on the doorknob. "What?" "I told him I couldn't be with him, because I'm in love with you." Adrian turned to face him. "You're in love with me?" "I've been in love with you for years. I was just too proud to admit it."
Pride.
Adrian shook his head. "You know what, Julian? I don't care if you love me. I don't care if you're sorry. I don't care if you've finally figured out what you want. Adrian, because I've figured out what I want too. And it's not you." Adrian's voice was steady, certain. "It's not the man who hid me from his ex. It's not the man who let his friend humiliate me. It's not the man who threatened my boyfriend's career because he couldn't handle being told no." "He told you about that?" "Of course he told me. We don't keep secrets from each other. We don't play games. We don't make each other beg for basic respect." Julian's face went white. "I never made you beg. Didn't you?" 7 years, Julian. 7 years of me proving I was worth your time. 7 years of me accepting whatever you were willing to give. 7 years of me being grateful for the bare minimum. That's not how it was. That's exactly how it was. And you know what? I'm done. I'm done fighting for someone who won't fight for me. I'm done being your safety net. I'm done being your consolation prize. You were never a consolation prize. Then what was I? Because I was never your first choice. I was never your public choice. I was never your proud choice. I was just there. Convenient. Available. Loyal. Julian stepped closer, reaching for him. You're the love of my life. No, Adrian said, stepping back. I'm the man who loved you for 7 years while you took me for granted. But I'm not that man anymore. What does that mean? It means I choose Ryan. I choose the man who's proud to be with me. I choose the man who doesn't hide me away. I choose the man who makes me feel like I'm worth something. And if I fight for you, if I prove that I've changed, then you'll be fighting alone. Because I'm not interested in being fought for anymore. I'm interested in being chosen. From the beginning. Without hesitation. Without competition. Without conditions. Julian's eyes filled with tears. Adrian, please. I love you. I know you do. But love isn't enough. Not anymore. Adrian opened his door and stepped inside. Goodbye, Julian. He closed the door gently, leaving Julian standing in the hallway. Through the peephole, he watched Julian stand there for a long moment before finally walking away. Adrian pulled out his phone and called Ryan. Can you come over? I need to tell you something. Good something or bad something? Good something. The best something. I'm on my way. Chapter 12. Coming home. Ryan arrived 20 minutes later with takeout and a bottle of wine, his hair still damp from the shower. He looked at Adrian's face and set everything down on the counter. What happened? Julian was here. He told me he loved me. Ryan went very still. And I told him it didn't matter. That I choose you. The smile that spread across Ryan's face was like sunrise. You do.
Ido.
Not because Julian hurt me, not because you're safe, not because you're convenient. Because you're you. Because you make me feel like I'm home. Ryan crossed the room in 3 steps, pulling Adrian into his arms. I love you, he said against Adrian's hair. I've loved you since we were 22 and I was too stupid to fight for you. You're fighting for me now. I'm not fighting for you. I'm choosing you. Every day, I'm choosing you. They kissed then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, Ryan rested his forehead against Adrian's. So what now? Ryan asked. Now we figure it out. Together. Together sounds good. They spent the evening on Ryan's couch, sharing takeout and talking about everything and nothing. Adrian told him about the 7 years with Julian, about the patterns he'd finally recognized, about the man he'd been and the man he wanted to become. I don't want to be someone who accepts crumbs, Adrian said. I want to be someone who knows their worth. You're getting there. How do you know? Because you chose yourself. Finally, you chose yourself. Ryan was right. For the first time in years, Adrian felt like he was exactly where he belonged. Not chasing someone else's love, not competing for attention, not grateful for scraps. Just loved. Completely, unconditionally, proudly loved. I have something to tell you, Ryan said as they were getting ready for bed. About my job. Adrian's stomach dropped. Did Julian?
No.
Well, yes, but not the way you think. Ryan took his hand. I got a call today. From the principal. Apparently, someone made a very generous donation to the school's music program. Anonymous. But with a note saying it was inspired by the integrity and courage of the faculty. What does that mean? It means I'm not going anywhere. It means whoever made that donation ensured that my job is safe, no matter what Julian or anyone else tries to do. Adrian frowned. Who would do that? I don't know, but I have a suspicion. Adrian's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You deserve to be happy. Both of you. S. Sebastian. Adrian showed Ryan the message, and they looked at each other in surprise. Huh, Ryan said. Maybe Julian's ex isn't so bad after all. Maybe not. That night, Adrian slept better than he had in months. He dreamed of music and laughter, of hands that held him without conditions, of a love that didn't require him to be anyone other than himself. When he woke, Ryan was already up, making coffee and humming softly. The morning light streaming through the windows made everything look golden. Possible. Good morning, Ryan said, kissing him softly. Good morning. Any regrets? Adrian looked around the small apartment, at the books and the guitar and the man who'd chosen him first, always first. None. Good. Because I'm not letting you go again. Promise. Promise. Epilogue. 6 months later. The coffee shop was busy, filled with the usual mix of students and professionals grabbing their morning caffeine fix. Adrian sat in the corner booth, laptop open, working on a presentation for his new job. He'd left his old company 3 months ago, tired of the politics and the connection to Julian's social circle. The new position paid less but felt more honest, more like himself. You're glowing, Mia said, sliding into the seat across from him. It's disgusting. Good morning to you too, Adrian said, closing his laptop. How's the wedding planning? Stressful. David wants to invite everyone we've ever met, and I want to elope to Vegas. She stirred her latte thoughtfully. Speaking of weddings, any news on that front? It's been 6 months, Mia. We're taking it slow. You're taking it slow. Ryan looks at you like you hung the moon. Adrian smiled. He's good to me. He's good for you. There's a difference. Mia leaned forward. You're different now. More. Yourself, if that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Good. Because I have news, and I wanted you to hear it from me first. Adrian's stomach tightened. What kind of news? Julian's engaged. The words hit Adrian like a distant echo. Important once, but no longer painful. To Sebastian?
No.
To some artist he met at a gallery. Very whirlwind, very romantic. The wedding's in 3 months. Adrian waited for the hurt, for the jealousy, for the voice that would whisper that it should have been him. But all he felt was a quiet relief that Julian had found someone who made him happy. Good for him, Adrian said, and meant it. That's it? Good for him. What else should I say? I hope he's happy. I hope he treats her better than he treated me. I hope he's learned something. Mia studied his face. You really are over him. I really am. And if he came to you tomorrow, begging for another chance? Adrian thought about it seriously. I'd wish him well and tell him to go home to his fiancée. Because I'm home too, Mia. Finally. As if summoned by his words, Ryan appeared at their table, carrying a coffee and wearing the smile that still made Adrian's heart skip. Sorry I'm late, Ryan said, kissing Adrian's cheek. Faculty meeting ran long. It's fine. You remember Mia. Of course. How's the wedding planning? Stressful, Mia said, but she was smiling. But worth it. They always are, Ryan said, his hand finding Adrian's. The best things usually are. Later, as they walked home through the park where Adrian and Julian had once fought, Adrian felt a sense of completion. Not the bitter satisfaction of revenge, but the quiet contentment of a life well lived. Penny for your thoughts? Ryan asked. Just thinking about how different everything is now. Different how? Better. Realer. More me. Ryan stopped walking, turning to face him. Adrian, can I ask you something? Always. Are you happy? Really happy? Adrian looked at him. At the man who'd waited for him to find his way home, who'd never made him feel like he was asking for too much, who'd chosen him first and kept choosing him every day. Yes, Adrian said. I'm really happy. Good, Ryan said, reaching into his pocket. Because I have something for you. The ring was simple, elegant, perfect. Not a statement piece designed to impress others, but a quiet promise meant for just the two of them. Ryan, I know it's fast. I know we said we'd take it slow. But Adrian, I've been in love with you for 8 years. I don't want to waste any more time. Is that a proposal? It's a promise. Promise that you'll never have to chase love again. A promise that you'll never have to prove you're worthy of it. A promise that you're my first choice, my only choice, my forever choice. Adrian's eyes filled with tears. Yes, yes, yes to the promise. Yes to the ring. Yes to forever. Ryan slipped the ring onto Adrian's finger, and it fit perfectly. Of course it did. Everything about Ryan fit perfectly. I love you, Ryan said. I love you too, Adrian replied. More than I ever thought possible. They kissed in the middle of the park, surrounded by the sounds of the city and the promise of tomorrow. And for the first time in his life, Adrian felt like he was exactly where he belonged. Not chasing love, but living it. Not earning it, but receiving it. Not fighting for it, but choosing it. Every day choosing it. Every day choosing home. The end.